Hello, welcome. I look like I don't know really quite what I look like. Something like some sort of cross between like saint iconography from 14th century Italy and some sort of like victory war poster. What I would like you to know, though, is that these are made of zip ties. And that's all you really need to know. So anytime you think that this is over the top, I want you to remember that I actually just have a bunch of zip ties attached on my head. Yes. Oro said, yes, I was hoping you'd be in the outfit. Obviously we went and stood out in the rain today, and I came home and I was like, I should probably get out of this all white getup, but I ended up deciding it was worth it to show you all the wonderful ridiculousness of this outfit, which I feel like is a very strange outfit to discuss business graphs on today, but that is what we are here doing today. That is what I decided to give myself an easy live stream topic today because I just love self-indulgently talking about graphs and business, but I also don't have to do any prep for this because I already put these reports on my website. If you find yourself wanting slightly more details or want to look at the graphs again or something like that, in the description of this video, there is a link to the blog post that has these graphs in them and a little bit more detail for things. So, but yeah, I thought this would be interesting to talk about just because I've noticed that like how much I make and spending reports are quite a big thing on YouTube. So even though I won't actually make a video because I never make real videos, I just do live streams, I thought it would be interesting. Apparently my parents are in the house, so please don't ask them questions. They seem very eager to embarrass me. Let's not give them any fodder for that. Marcella says, what if I want more details on that outfit? I will give you more details on the outfit if you want. You might be disappointed with the details, but yes, the Nickelback voice. Look at these graphs. I can't really sing the song. Okay. Rural asks, do you have new color in your hair? Yeah, I have very little of my hair left that's the bleached bits on the end, but it was getting very sad. So last night I dyed it, and the lesson I learned was that I had been procrastinating for several weeks on doing that because it was such a big thing when so much of my hair was bleached, and it was a whole process. And it turns out when only a tiny bit of your hair still needs to be colored, it takes very little time or energy, and I should have done it earlier. Oh no, we are not, I am not indulging these questions of my parents. Here's our donut for today. It is slightly melted. This donut is not super compatible with the studio lights. So this is a lavender cookie dough, chocolate chip cookie dough one. And frequent live stream attendees know that I don't really like chocolate, but chocolate chip cookie dough, if this was a chocolate donut, I wouldn't be into it, but I'm pretty into this. Also, lavender is a very excited thing. Emily says, just kind of gotta lean over and dunk in the Manic Panic jar. I actually use special effects, not Manic Panic. But yes, it is it's just like a tiny vegetable based dye. It's very easy. I had this fantasy that maybe I was going to do it with henna because henna lasts a super duper long time, but I did about 10 minutes of research into henna and got overwhelmed and decided and also you have to have it on there for a really long time, 6 or 8 hours compared to 20 minutes for the vegetable dye. So I just was like, you know what, henna is a future Lily problem. It really sounds like something that is great to do for your hair and would be an ideal way to slowly phase out having to dye my hair. However, I think I would like someone who knows what they're doing to just do it to me. I know I've dyed my hair with henna before, but I was I don't know, 11 or something. Marcella says, don't do henna. The thing about henna is it works very well with my natural hair tone because I have like almost black hair, and it is, if it gets sun, it already kind of turns kind of red. So doing henna in my hair would just be very easy for that. But yes, hair dye is a vegetable. I'm just, every time I see my dad's icon, I'm just gonna not read the words. I just don't want to know what's going on. Hi, Bart. Thank you for joining. It's always interesting when we get people over from, like, Aaron's live streams. You can see the live streaming technology used in, I think, a slightly more dynamic environment than Aaron's. Aaron's is a lot more professional, she says, wearing zip ties on her head. Do we want to dive into business things? I like that we had no commentary on the donut for once. People are too distracted by outfits. Thank you. Thank you. My zip ties are very nice. I'm very excited about this. Abel Jack is demanding demanding this. David says that my parents told him a story about that before he realized they were my parents. I'm assuming this was at Indie Web Summit, because I feel like that's the only place where both my parents were and David was. When they first moved to Portland, they ran into, initially, the issue that it was almost impossible to try to make new friends in this town that didn't know me in some way, just because I've been involved in so many community organizations. But they eventually found friends, / just stole all my friends, because my parents are cooler than me. So, and like much more social and throw much better parties. So they just like solely stole all my friends. This is the issue with raising children who take after you. I remember that they were quite proud when they like went to a meetup that had nothing to do with any of my interests. And they're like, surely we're going to meet people that don't know Lillian. And then I like was meeting up with them afterwards, and someone was like, oh, hi, Lily, from this like, you know, skeptics group or whatever. So Latitude is making a cup of Purrbon tea. Thank you for the spawn very much. I'm also drinking Purrbon tea, so. All right, let's dive into business. Abel Jack requested it. Let's do some business stuff instead of just talking about clothing and zip ties and my parents who are just taking over this party like they do all my parties. David says, my parents can use some more friends. Can I import your parents to be theirs? Well, my dad originally came from New York, so I don't know if he wants to go back. But you might be able to export your parents if they're willing to come to Oregon. And then you could also export and come to Oregon, David. I think that would be great. Abel Jack is having a meltdown over here. Okay, let's talk about finances of my business. So overall, let's throw up the income graph. Let's throw up the graphs. This is just an excuse for me to show off graphs. This is really, realistically, just an excuse for me to show off graphs. So this is how much Oh My Dollar brought in last year. And in 2020, Oh My Dollar was not my full-time job. It was my full-time job in 2019, and I made about 50% more in 2019 when it was my full-time job. I made around $36,000 in 2019 when I wasn't doing anything else from Oh My Dollar. During that year, I did have a Kickstarter to reprint my book. And because of that, I had like a very large chunk of change come in about halfway through the year, which was a significant portion of this. This is gross income. So obviously there are expenses, which we will go into as well. I think it's interesting to see where the breakdown is. I had what it worked out to based on the tracked hours that I did for Oh My Dollar. I definitely missed some tracked hours for last year, but I spent 527 hours is what my tracked hours say that I spent on Oh My Dollar related tasks last year. And that includes everything from speaking, shipping out books, sending out Patreon stickers, writing Patreon updates, and of course, writing, recording, doing interviews for the show, editing the show, pushing it out, and doing these live streams. So it used to be that I got a much larger portion of my income from radio ads and syndication. However, in 2020, I was going through a renegotiation with my ad agency for the podcast, and that I was up for renewal right when COVID-19 hit and all advertisers contracted. And because of that, I had actually pretty significantly lower radio advertising fees for the actual podcast network. And the actual amount that I make for being aired on the radio through PRX, not the podcast, but the actual like broadcast radio, is very small. I make about $8 every time a show airs. And I have to do the sales to the individual stations myself. So it is a donut chart. Thank you for noticing. Is that a font or does someone draw that? That is a font. I do this work in Excel and then I import it to Photoshop just to do that. But all of the graph and everything and fonts are done in Excel. I just beat Excel into becoming design software by force. I find that brute force is the best way to get Excel to do any design work. Were there actual questions or does everybody just want to talk about donut charts? Okay, the brand is strong here. It is true. I am a witch in a very specific Excel-based format. I do think people keep asking if I will, like, contract for them as a designer, and I think they grossly overestimate my design skills, but I think it's mainly that people are upset that they can't make Excel do the things that I make Excel do. And it's just pure commitment to making Excel do things. Because there's a lot of stuff that I do that I know how to make R do it, but the process to get there in R is so much more frustrating than just arguing with Excel. So unless you like build out a whole like R template for graphs and stuff like that. So brute force is the best way to get Microsoft products to do what you want. They know I know it, and sometimes all I have to do is glare at them. That is 100% correct. What is Personal Finance Society? So those are my Patreon supporters. So Personal Finance Society are people that give between $2 and the upper end is $100 a month to the Personal Finance Society to support the show. The part of the money that comes in from there ends up getting donated onwards to the organizations that we work with for the Pay It Forward program. Part of that money goes to support me so that I don't have to put like terrible ads on the Oh My Dollar forums. And a large part of it is it gives me the freedom and flexibility to actually like step back from a lot of the if I used to get, initially when I was represented by my podcast ad network, it was great because they were bringing me a lot of pitches, but I got a lot of pitches that didn't really fit what I wanted to sell to my audience. And the advantage of having the Patreon and the Personal Finance Society was that it gave me a lot more flexibility to turn down ad deals that I didn't feel like were going to be fun to listen to. Maybe didn't represent that. So out of curiosity, what are the video appearances? So a significant chunk of the video appearance income was a series that I did with Vice Media that was sponsored by Geico. And it was me explaining personal finance to a bunch of kids. It was actually pretty fun to shoot, even though it did require like a couple shooting days. That's the real disadvantage of having Oh My Dollar not be my full-time job anymore, was that I like between having a full-time job, having a second job for half the year of 15 hours a week, and then on top of that, having Oh My Dollar, which averaged around 11 hours a week, if I got a very cool opportunity like this Vice gig that came my way, I had to be able to schedule time off at my job, convince my job. There was very short notice for that gig, and I needed to be available for a full 12 hours of shooting, 2 days back to back. And that is definitely one of the disadvantages of having Oh My Dollar be my side gig. I do think that, you know, having the flexibility of not having to rely on it for my primary income made it a lot easier to be generous. I probably would have had to rely on my emergency fund. In March, in 1 week in March, I lost $5,000 of speaking income, all in a week, between gigs that were canceled, postponed, and then eventually canceled. And if I had, like, everybody in online media businesses had significant revenue cuts, at least for the first couple months of the year. And then also, as someone who relies on speaking in a normal year as a large part of my income, you know, in 2019, I was speaking at a different university every couple weeks, and that was a large part of my speaking income. And obviously that didn't happen with this year. And when those gigs did start to come back, when they came back as virtual, they came back for a lot less money. But they still in many ways require, obviously I don't have to travel for the gigs, but they do require a lot of work just the same. But you know, universities are not flush with money right now. And there's also a lot less value put on doing virtual speaking gigs. So, is that these shows? No, Kevin was asking if the Personal Finance Society is these shows. No, these live streams are actually a benefit for, they were originally a benefit that I started for Patreons, actually during 2020. But we ended up opening them up to everyone. I have a really bad problem of, like, I'm very bad at being exclusionary, which I know would be a very effective business strategy to give away, like, more exclusive behind the scenes content to my patrons and make it so that, like, at least one live stream a month is a patron only live stream. And I have creators that I support on Patreon simply because I want to go to their like patron only live streams. But I'm just such a Hufflepuff and I want everyone to be included and I don't want to exclude anyone. And so I don't limit these live streams to my patrons. But no, the primary shows are my radio show and podcast. There's discussions about donuts going on. I don't know. Kevin says happy to be a patron either way. That's the thing is, like, all of my patrons are so sweet and nice and are like, oh, we don't need it to be exclusive content. One of my goals for 2021 is to actually get my patron amount. It is right now like $775 a month, and I would like to get it up to $1,000 a month before July. Just one that would feel like a better amount, but also I'm really eager to start paying freelance contributors to actually write some diverse perspectives on the Oh My Dollar blog. And I would like to do that from Personal Finance Society funds, and I need to push it up a little higher in order to kind of pay like a reasonable rate to freelance writers. So yeah. And then direct to consumer e-commerce is my, that is the money that I make from Shopify. So some of that would be in-person sales, but I obviously did very few in-person sales. In a normal year, I will go and table at least a couple events. I will sell books at speaking gigs. And that includes tea, books, and stickers. Retail wholesale is through my retail supplier, which is Buy Olympia. They are a great indie wholesaler. Obviously, retail dropped a ton this year because I mostly get carried, my stuff mostly gets carried in, like, you know, bookstores and gift shops and stuff like that, which were not open for a large portion of the year. And a lot of them are in danger of closing entirely. You know, one of the most exciting things for me was that I actually started to get carried at Tender Loving Empire, which has a store in the Portland airport. And I was so excited about seeing my book in the Portland airport because for some reason, having my book in an airport is like way more exciting to me than a lot of things. Like probably my favorite part is that it's in libraries and I didn't, you know, like that's like by people requesting it in their own libraries. But I will say, I just really wanted to see it in an airport, but it only got in the airport right before the airport closed all of their retail. So, and I stopped flying. And then last but not least is Amazon e-commerce. So I have 3 different relationships with Amazon. I have Amazon Advantage, which is what goes directly to publishers requesting wholesale. It is the most frustrating website known to man. It has these bizarre purchase orders. It's clearly designed for large publishers, but I am forced to use it for reasons. Then I also have Amazon Seller Central, and that includes books that I ship out as a supplier through Amazon and then fulfilled by Amazon. And then last but not least, a small portion of that is Amazon affiliate income, which is not a huge portion of income, but I would like to grow it in 2021. So I tried to sort this out as time for money versus sales of goods versus content. And I really consider content to be my primary job, producing the show, producing books, things like that. But it actually only made up about 30, total amount from that only made 38% of my income up. Speaking, kind of selling my personality and video appearances and speaking is close to the same percentage. And then obviously e-commerce. So as well. I do not know what's going on in there. I'm 3-timing with Amazon. The problem is I would really like to have only one relationship with Amazon. Unfortunately, they force me to have logins for a lot of different pages. If anybody else has used Amazon Advantage and wants to rant with me about it, please do, because it is the worst website. It was designed in 1995. It's so confusing. Anyway, we don't need to go on a rant. I feel like I'm going to get shut down by the YouTube gods for making fun of their friend Amazon or something. Should we talk about expenses now? Does anybody have any other questions? I did say that I was going to share CPMs. I wasn't able to pull a very easy report of my CPMs for podcast ads, but I will tell you that generally when I do a host read ad, my CPM, which is your cost per mil, which is how much that you get per 1,000 listeners. So I have around 50,000 downloads per show. So when I put up a show, I get around 50,000 downloads within 28 days of posting the show. Some shows have a lot more listens in the back catalog. For example, I got featured in the New York Times this year, which was pretty big deal, and they recommended a show to listen to, and that one has a lot more listens. And I was like, why did I not have a host read for that show? But I use programmatic advertising, so I get programmatic ads that are not host reads. Those go for a much lower CPM. I usually make around $2 for every 1,000 listeners roughly on those, but they dropped almost to nothing from March until they really didn't come back online till August. I just had empty slots. I was running promos for other podcasts on my network. If you listen to the show, then probably your programmatically inserted ads were really not making me any money at all. Essentially, they'll sell the ad slot, but if no one is buying, then it will just play something else. So sometimes it was promos for my own stuff, whatever. Then the next type is that I get host reads, and those come in from my ad network. They take a 60% cut. That being said, I really hated handling the contracts for these, and they just do it for me. So an advertiser will say, okay, your listener demographic is appealing to me. Would you be interested in this? They'll send over a rate. Usually I earn between $200 and $300 for a host read. And that will be a set fee, and they will buy that ad inventory. So a mid-roll, pre-roll, whatever, they'll buy that, and then it will, be for 2 months or something. They'll run it for 2 months. They'll set a campaign time. All right, let's talk about expenses. All right, so as you see, the last one, total amount that I made last year, roughly, there may be give and take for some accounting reasons. I made $21,452. These were my expenses. So I tried to come up with categories for these, and I came up with sales of goods, tangible and incorporeal, which is just like software stuff that's like not, I can't physically touch it. I just really wanted to see what it would end up being. The vast majority of my expenses end up relating to running websites and producing content. So software takes up a huge portion. It's going to be even higher this year because I was getting a student deal on Adobe for way longer than I should have. And so my cost for that jumped, like doubled, more than doubled in December. So it's going to go up a lot. I also spend money on hosting and servers. That is for the Omedeller forums. For my website, I had to emergency upgrade my main website when it got featured in the New York Times because it crashed the website. So I have a virtual private server. I do not have a private server, but I have a virtual private server with DreamHost. And then I have two other servers. I have Linode that supports the forums, and then I have one other thing I pay for around hosting. And then I also pay for email hosting. That includes my newsletter, but it also includes Mailgun, which is what sends out emails for the forums. So, is my show an audio only show? Yes. Yeah, we tried doing video podcasts for a while. Okay, contractors, that includes graphic. Those are people that I pay. Those include transcriptionists. I started hiring out a lot more work this year simply because I had such limited time. Some video production costs. Travel is in there, which is very laughable, but that is travel to a conference that was canceled, and so now I just have an airline credit. Kitchen rental was for producing Purrbon, and then obviously you can see how much I spend on postage. It is not small per year. And also $300 on shipping supplies alone. Does anybody have any questions about expenses? COGS is cost of goods sold. This is my costs of products that I do sell. This is my raw costs, not the retail costs, but on my Schedule C, I have to report the retail costs. What's the coolest thing I get to expense? I have gotten to expense, I get to expense donuts, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, you'll be able to see meals in there, which is only 50% tax deductible, but meals is $209, and almost all of that was donuts. Marcella says postage doesn't actually look so bad. It is 10% of my overall costs. Dean says, thank you for the stickers. I love them, and it's so nice to get them in the post. Thank you for being a patron. Yeah, and I also, part of what I spend on postage is mailing out stickers to patrons. So that's actually part of the cost of supporting and thanking my patrons. But obviously a large part of my overall, cost of goods sold this year was making tea. I actually make a decent profit margin on this tea, but I did a really limited run because I just wanted to see if people would buy it. And I just wanted the product to exist. So I might end up going with a co-packer in the future. And I had some setup costs involved with that. I got a heat sealer. I had to get some a special type of insurance in order to be able to sell food products and stuff like that. But I am planning on continuing the Purrbon line in the future. But it might actually not be an Oh My Dollar brand anymore. I might start a separate LLC for it if I continue to make it bigger, because it was a little weird to sell tea under my finance media company. Anybody else have any questions about what they... Oh, take this off the screen. There we go. I guess we can show off some Shopify things. So this is the average order value, and you can see how everything tanked in March and April. Nobody was buying anything on the internet. And then I launched pre-orders for the tea in September and October, and you can see that kind of peaked. And then obviously end of year, people start buying more. This is average order value for my online store. Sorry, just seeing selfies. I'm doing great here at running this. And then this was total sales from my online store, and you can pretty obviously see when OMT launched. So there we go. I think that's the main updates. If you take that off, I'll put my blog post up. So I can see if I remember anything that I want to say. We were all sure we were going to be broke forever in April, and unfortunately it was true for some people. Yeah, we were all kind of like panicking, but also wanted to spend money on local businesses, but also just didn't, nobody really knew. So I took home $7,500 from Oh My Dollar this year, and that was a lot less than I took home last year, but one of the advantages of having a day job is that I was able to reinvest more money in the business. I am planning on hiring out more help. I saved $3,000, a little over $3,000 for taxes, but I just did my taxes, and because I was able to expend so much stuff and the qualified business income and the self-employed health insurance deduction, I actually ended up owing a lot less. So I kind of just gave myself a $3,000 grant that I'm going to be reinvesting in the business in the future, which is kind of cool. That is overall kind of one of the big changes that happened this year, was that I was less reliant on Oh My Dollar for income, so I was given a little bit more flexibility. There's a big charity and community component to Oh My Dollar, and there always has been. The big thing that we do that goes out into the community is the Pay It Forward workshops. And those are financial literacy workshops I do with community partners, mainly community partners that serve low-income GLBTQI youth. And a lot of them are transitionally living or experiencing homelessness. And I work with a bunch of community partners I know from my years in nonprofits, and I have always done the workshops in person and brought books, and I'm largely able to make this happen because I have people that do buy a book and pay it forward, or I'm able to subsidize it off of the Personal Finance Society folks. So we had my original goal was to do 300 books this year. And then in March, it was like, well, it's not safe to go into shelters. A lot of shelters were dealing with like huge shortfalls while also dealing with like this huge increase in need. And it took a while to figure out. It took about 5 months to actually work out how to do it, despite the fact that like financial literacy and budgeting help is more important than it's ever been before for these youth, because so many of them are financially precarious. But around September, we were able to start to actually figure out how to do it. And almost all of my partners have been able to do virtual workshops. One of the big concerns was that it's hard to just be like a random person the youth don't know dropping in. And usually I really rely on the familiarity that they have with the community program that I come. And so that I'm able to be like a more friendly face, but in a space that's already familiar to them. And also a lot of the youth do have trouble getting consistent internet. And so doing something like a virtual workshop, it was really challenging. And to be honest, a lot of the centers have really unstable internet, like really poor technology. I mean, even just like when I bring slides, it can be really challenging. So what we ended up being able to work out was getting books delivered virtually to the youth, and then having them actually like coordinate and come in for physical workshops at the centers that were already doing workshops, because they were going there to receive resources like food and stuff like that, and be able to go masked and do it virtually that way. So yeah. Donut stockpile in the bunker is the most important part. So overall, goals for next year. So big goals for next year is that I want to be able to do at least 6 Pay It Forward workshops. I'd like to reach 200 youth again over this year. I mentioned I want to get the Patreon to 1,000. And it's less about the number. I think the symbolism is kind of more important than it's like a tangible number. But for me, it's more about the number of people I can get supporting Oh My Dollar. You know, we get around 50,000 listeners per episode, and I have like 117 patrons. And I in no way expect every patron to sign up, but it would be nice to get a slightly higher percentage from our overall number of things. And then I also want to keep continuing to donate. I've just essentially been doing charity donations of all of my radio ads, plus a little more every month since June, focusing on Black trans-led organizations, and also donating on forward to some of the community organizations that have really high needs right now, where I teach pay it forward workshops. So that's pretty much it. I would also like to increase affiliate income. I'm still working out how to do ads on the forums in a way that I feel comfortable with. The Oh My Dollar forums get about 250,000 page views a month, so they are not unsizable. But I know that it is a community place for people, and having ads be really intrusive. I'm not opposed to having ads at all on the forums, but I don't want them to be like video ads and jumpy and awful and make the user experience really terrible. And so I've been trying to work to find an ad partner that I feel like would really be a good fit. So that's it. Start soliciting planner ads. I know, for real. Get affiliate monies for all the clothes we feature. Yeah, I have a plugin. So I now get Amazon affiliate income from when people buy things through the forums, which I don't feel bad about, I guess. But I also would like to figure out ways to get affiliate income from some of the more high dollar affiliates, because Amazon is like, you know, a lot of people get stuff through Amazon. But I do have affiliate relationships with some, like, through one of my networks. I like credit cards and stuff like that, which are much higher dollar referrals, and some budgeting software and stuff like that, which I think fit the vibe of the community as long as I'm able to kind of control the narrative of the ads. And I also, people are constantly asking for recommendations of credit cards for travel. And for a long time, I've really shied away from doing that because I think it could really risk the editorial integrity of Oh My Dollar to be recommending travel credit cards. But at this point, people are asking for it so much, I just feel like I can't feel bad for doing something that my listeners are asking me to do. So if I were to write some credit card guides and link them up to affiliate referral links, it would rule. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, I think people would really like it. I think that people might be frustrated that in typical both Lily fashion and like all Oh My Dollar fashion, I'm not just going to be like, this is the best card, but I will probably write up like, this is the best card if you're American and you're looking for, you know, cash back on gas or groceries. This is the best card if you're looking for this kind of perks and stuff like that. And it also, it's also it changes pretty much every month because it's largely dependent on sign-up bonuses. And I think a lot of people don't understand how the game works, and they get really intimidated because it's very overwhelming. And I've been doing it long enough that I think it is, I think it's like valuable at least to kind of talk about how I use it and how I do it. So. And I don't do any of the more like extreme stuff. Like I don't do manufactured spend or any of the stuff that would like shut down my relationships with those credit card companies for affiliate deals. Manufactured spend is where essentially to hit a minimum spend, you do things that aren't necessarily buying stuff, but count as buying stuff on the cards. So it might be like buying Visa gift cards and stuff like that on your credit card. And some people will fund bank accounts using their credit cards, which you can do with some bank accounts, and it won't count as a cash advance. So there's like weird manufacturer spend things people do. I like the idea of an annual or quarterly fundraiser or plug at the top of the forums for a pay it forward session. I mean, right now, I gotta say, I do not need any more financial. My biggest problem is that I can't deliver enough workshops for all of the generosity of the Oh My Dollar communities community and everything. I think one of the cool parts is since we've started to work out how to do the virtual sessions, I've done 3 of them now, and like how to effectively serve youth. The advantage is that I can serve outside of the Portland geographic area. So that is really exciting. And then we will look into that. I do think it would be kind of cool to raise money directly for the community organizations that I serve. One of the organizations that I consistently do every quarter, is a drop-in shelter for youth, and my workshop is available to any youth that want it there. And by youth, I mean up to ages 24, which is quite typical for a lot of young adult serving populations. So they have like a scholarship program that is funded by a solo donor that they're allowed to use towards living expenses and self-care and things like that when they are attending an educational thing. So a lot of them go to Job Corps, or they do like an internship to get experience, and this will help them pay living expenses, and also like, doctor's appointments and stuff like that. Like most of them are covered by Medicaid, so it helps them like get to doctor's appointments and pay for bus tickets and stuff like that. And the only requirement this private donor had was that they attend a financial literacy workshop and they put together a budget. And so I was brought in as I actually used to live with one of the social workers that works there. But I was brought in to be like someone that is relatable to the youth and can teach them some of those basics. And it's very cool I've been working with them for 2 years now, and some of those youth now have like full-time jobs at the place that they've interned. 2 of them have finished their apprenticeships in the trades, and one of them, like, I think probably one of the best like moments I had was when I came back in a teacher workshop, and one of the social workers said, "Hey, I wanted to let you know that like one of the youth that attended your workshop last time came in and they were crying because they had lost their job. And, I was like, what do we need to do to get you like resources while you look for another job? Like, are you going to be okay? Are you going to be able to stay in your housing?" And they said, "Oh yeah, since I took that personal finance workshop, I've been saving, 20% of every paycheck. And I actually am going to be okay for like a month while I find a new job." And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that had that effect. So it's a really challenging environment for young adults that come from unstable housing situations. A lot of these youth don't have families of origin at all. They are, a lot of them have aged out of the foster system and really don't have a lot of support structure. And this has been an extremely hard year for them, because a lot of the support structure that, some of them would go to community college and things like that. In Oregon, if you are ward of the court when you turn 18, you essentially can get college covered at community college or state college, 100% your tuition. The issue becomes that was a lot of the stable network that a lot of these youth had. And when it switched to virtual, a lot of them have a lot of barriers to virtual instruction. And quite a lot of them don't have skills for working in industries other than service industry right now. They're very young. Those are the only jobs that they've had are like retail and service jobs. And those industries have obviously been hit really hard. And so it has been a really tough year for the youth that we've work with. Yeah. And obviously, like, their needs are being taken care of by the social worker, like, as far as coordination and all the work. I am not doing that work, and I don't want to take credit for that work. All I do is I drop in and I help them with financial literacy skills, and I am available to them. Like, they all have my email. They do not have my phone number, because that violates a lot of normal boundaries that you want to worry about with youth. But I'm one of the few people, like, normally volunteers don't give their contact information within a couple of the shelters I work in, but I'm one of the volunteers that I've essentially allowed to be, because I'm not physically present there a lot of the time, but they're able to email me if they have questions about credit or, trying to get their first apartment or something. I've worked with some of them on doing credit. So yeah. It is Very cool. That was a very long. It would be cool to raise money for the, inclusive all around work that they're doing for youth. The problem is there's so many, but it would be so cool to be one of those people someday that funds a entire scholarship program at a single day center in my community. So that's long-term goals. No training in finance, etc., can have lifelong impacts. Yeah, especially because so many of these youth are don't have any. They don't, really essentially don't have any supportive older family figures in life, or if they do, they don't necessarily have positive ones. And that can be true regardless of your background. You can have really bad relationships with money from your family of origin, no matter the circumstances of your family of origin. But a lot of them are getting all of their information about money from peers, and those peers can have very wrong, extremely wrong information about money. And I see that quite often where I'm busting like very problematic myths. The other thing too is because quite a few of them do attend college, and if you are ward of the court when you turn 18 here, you essentially get the Oregon grant, and it's paid for, and they're going to get back financial aid refund checks. So for a lot of them, they might end up with a $2,000 check that comes to them at the beginning of the quarter. One, they're supposed to make that last the entire quarter. For a lot of them, that's the largest amount of money they've ever seen in their life. And it's the largest amount of money everyone in their social network has seen in their life. And suddenly they got friends and cousins coming out from the woodwork being like, oh, can I, so being able to see things like that. Out of curiosity, is there a common incorrect opinion that they often have? A lot of credit myths go on. There is a lot of fear of credit institutions, which sounds really great. Where they're like, oh, I don't want to have credit. I never want to deal with credit cards because I don't want to end up in that kind of debt. And that it's a good starting place, but we need to work them past that, because for a lot of them, they don't have access to someone to co-sign on an apartment. In Portland's rental market, it is almost impossible with no credit score and very little assets and no co-signer at 18 to find a place. And so working with them on ways that they can build their credit without, running themselves into debt. Cryptocurrency is a huge one. Everybody thinks they're going to get rich off Bitcoin. Every 19-year-old thinks they're going to get rich off Bitcoin. So, yeah. I've seen this financial education company called Iron Life get talked about in my local pages. Feels like a scam. Have you heard of them? No, I haven't, but I'll investigate. I would like to know. I see Biden is making some noises about doing away with credit bureaus and having CFPB do some sort of credit info instead. Might be worth looking at in one of these live streams. That sounds like an excellent live stream topic. Thank you so much. That also sounds like something cribbed from Elizabeth Warren. That is very fascinating. I love to talk about the history of credit and how it was actually supposed to make things more fair. And how it fundamentally did not do that. So I would love to talk about alternatives to it. So let's talk about this. Let's eat this donut. We've only got 10 minutes left in the normal live stream time, and I haven't eaten the donut yet. I'm sorry. Here it is. Lavender cookie dough donut. I need to start telling them to give me only the pretty donuts. I don't smell the lavender on it. Oh, I taste the lavender though. Wow. I don't taste the cookie dough really yet, even though I took a bite out of it. It's so sugary. It's like, it's just glazed in so much sugar. And then these, like, I'm going to try this dough without. Oh my God. The cookie dough is amazing. I love that it's vegan cookie dough, so I know it won't give me salmonella. I mean, it's far less likely to give me salmonella. Technically, you can get salmonella from vegan food. Yeah, LA-style donuts are the ones that are always Instagram ready. It is so sugary. It's like... It tastes like lavender sugar. That's the best description I can give. It's like, it's just pure icing sugar with a very strong lavender flavor. The lavender is great, though. Yeah, no to donut tax on this one. You can get salmonella from anything if you believe in yourself. Does anybody have any questions about business finance? Oh my god. I don't think I can finish this today. I will finish it. It's not like a... It is not like a, you know... It's not like I don't like it. It's just, it's very sugary. It's very intense. I need some Purrbon. Oh, thank you for... Thank you all for actually asking questions related to the finance. What resources did you find helpful in learning how to run business finances versus your own personal finances? Honestly, I think so I did have some experience with business finances. I was very familiar with nonprofit accounting. Like I'd been doing it for years. I was the treasurer of a couple different organizations. So I wasn't unfamiliar. I'd managed budgets, I'd managed really large budgets, for nonprofits. I did a couple things. One, I actually attended a 6-week business class because I got an individual development account, which is a match savings account for low-income people for starting a business. I think I've previously referenced this, which I was able to actually donate back into the tax credit last year. So I feel very satisfied that I'm helping contribute to the IDAs overall. Anyway, I did the IDA and it required me to attend a business class. And even though I had the economics background, it was extremely helpful to see marginal cost and cost of goods sold in the context of a small business rather than in the context of a microeconomics class, right? Which is meant to teach you business economics, but it doesn't really teach you about it's not from the perspective of someone who's actually run a small business. So that was very helpful. But I also had to create a full budget and projections, expenses, revenue, where the different products I sold and how I was going to price them and how many I had to sell, and a business plan in order to get my IDA. And that really helped. But I actually think I went too hardcore on the business end of the finances in the beginning because I ended up kind of coming back around to, for example, I used business accounting software for the first couple years for the business. And then 2 years ago or early 2020, I actually started managing all of my expenses for the business in YNAB. And obviously I still have to record receipts, which YNAB is not meant to be business accounting software. You need a budget. It's what I use for my personal budget. They do have a small business template, but what I liked about it was a lot easier to customize my categories. I was already used to the software, and while it won't let me store receipts, I have so few paper receipts at this point that I just set up rules on my email, and then I scan the paper receipts to a folder, and that is how I manage my paper receipts. It did help that I switched to using YNAB in a year where I had no travel. Because usually my biggest receipts and my hardest type of accounting is when I am going out to cons and I am doing a lot of cash sales at tables and speaking gigs, and when I am traveling on the road and there's just a bunch of expenses I need to do in cash. My upstairs neighbor is now tap dancing. My accountant says my side hustle isn't a hustle. It's a hobby until I make more than $10,000 a year. Would you have a different opinion? A lot of it has to do with there's no official rule of 10,000. That's a fine. That is like a totally fine amount. To say the rules on a hobby are pretty vague. That being said, they don't like it if you're expensing a bunch of things for a business, but you've been year over year losing money on the business. After a couple years, they start to be like, that doesn't sound like a business. It also has to do with proportionality to your day job income. So it's one of those things, like a lot of things with taxes, it's less rules. It's less a science than an art. And so where things fall for a hobby versus a business, there's kind of a multi-part test that you can do, but it's more up to some kind of lifestyle factors than a single number. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't necessarily call it a business, but that being said, like, you could interpret it how you want. This live stream did remind me to buy the book for my cousin who just turned 21. Why is someone recommending my podcast? What's going on? I also use YNAB for my business, but I only make a few $100s a year and have 0 paper receipts. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't mind it. What I like about YNAB for my business is it allows me to think a lot more forward because it is designed for personal finance. So one of the things it lets you do is any money that you have available, you can budget for future expenses. So I find it quite good for tax savings. I didn't have to do quarterly tax payments last year, unlike the year prior, because I had a day job and I just upped my withholding. And in the end, that made a lot of sense. But so it was nice because I got some float on the money I was saving for taxes by actually shunting it away in an account that got me like a tiny bit of interest on it. Did I decide on my taxes timing? I am ready to file my taxes, but I am waiting to find out what they decide is the upper income limit for the stimulus payment, because based on the previous stimulus payments, it will be based on your 2019 income and not your 2020 income, unless you filed 2020. And I, overall, between all 3 of my jobs last year, including my business, I made about $66,000 gross. And the previous year, because of all of my deductions and I was fully self-employed, even though I made $35,000 gross, my adjusted gross income was actually only around $8,000, which means that I qualify for everything based on income. And currently they are debating whether or not $75,000 is going to be the cutoff for the extra stimulus payment or $50,000. So I am waiting to file until we know what it is, but they're saying that they might not have it worked out for a couple other weeks. So I will not file until then. So I am rich now. I am 100% rich now. Although I will not be making that kind of money this year because I am not working 3 jobs. Because last year I worked a whole nother second job, 15 hours a week on top of Oh My Dollar and a full-time job for half of the year. So that money came at the cost of my sanity, and I feel very lucky that I was able to do that in 2020, but I would not recommend it to anyone, really. It was not sustainable or great. I do not use YNAB because I prefer a weird little spreadsheet of my own devising, but their support team is A+ for whom that matters. I'm currently in a long, drawn-out support discussion with them because they don't like the way that I split certain things, and we are having a discussion. But I will say the support has been fantastic. It's just that I fundamentally disagree with one of the ways that they treat credit card payments. But Emily, I did want to tell them, I also work in support. Although I work in a very different kind of support because I work in client-facing support for B2B software for public agencies. So it's a very different kind of thing than consumer-facing support. Denise says, I don't want one full-time job. Same. I'm so grateful to have all the work that I have, but man, I don't even really want to work full-time. I've had the same fight with YNAB, and it's about time to rehash that debate. Yes, we are going to have a long discussion. Does anybody have any other questions? I know someone asked for goals for 2021. So I mentioned I'd like to increase Patreon. I would like to start paying more freelancers. I'm trying to actually reduce the amount of work so that I can increase the amount of content. The advantage of having the day job right now is that I can reinvest some more money. And like I mentioned, I essentially have $3,000 sitting around. So I'm hoping to be able to outsource some social media advertising, which I am very bad at. I am considering splitting off the OMT component into its own company and going with a co-packer. I really, really would like to make more actual videos. And I think the only solution is to hire an editor, because it's not the filming part that is the problem. And it's not even that I don't have the technical skills to edit. It's that it takes a lot of time, and that is something I'm really lacking. And I'm not so great at editing that I need to do it myself. So I'm looking into outsourcing that. So that is a big, spending money is one of the big goals for this year. So Latitude says, very annoyed that I can't just pay a set fee for YNAB and own it for a year or whatever. You can buy it for a year, but it's free for students. So you should write in and get it free for students if you haven't already, Latitude. And then you get it free for a year when you're a student. So Marcella says, train folks to give workshops in other places. Oh my gosh, I would absolutely love to do some sort of train the trainer, especially for pay it forward workshops. I would love to do that. I just don't know if it's in the cards this year. If I don't continue to have a day job, 100% something I would like to do. Realistically, I think it's probably more likely that I will be able to expand to some of the workshops that have reached out outside. I really love doing physical products. It's one of my favorite things. I know that it's not the fastest path to being an internet millionaire to do a bunch of physical products that have cost of goods sold, but I just love it. It's very fun for me. As someone who spent most of her career in nonprofits, selling people intangible things, which is the good feeling of supporting other people, which is valuable, not against it, but it is so nice to just be would you like this tea? It will be tea. Take it. Here. Do you need tea? I will sell you tea. You will give me money, and then you will have tea. I really appreciate that, and I know it's an underrated thing, but people that have worked in the private sector are just used to selling widgets. But I would really like to do a planner. And, I did this tiny planner, which this is the very last one in the world. But this tiny kitty star budget planner I did as a bonus perk for the Kickstarter. And then I had 100 or 200 left over, and I sold them at gigs and a little bit on Shopify. And then they were sold wholesale through my distributor at gift shops for retail and stuff. And they did very, very well. But I would actually like to do a more calendar-like planner in addition to that. Although I've kind of fantasized about doing a large budget ledger. This is a cute little pocket budget, but pocket budgets are a lot less important right now for people because they're not going anywhere. So I would absolutely love to do some sort of planner that has I think it would be cool to have a planner where you could choose or not choose to have different kinds of budgeting sections in it. But the logistics of that are hard. Also, I do hate doing graphic design, as I've previously told people all the time, but I keep designing stuff. And a planner is just a lot. I designed a whole book, and I don't really want to ever do it again. Jen DeZero 100% has a few columns about how much she likes physical products. I remember I was talking to, so Jen runs the Bullish Shop, and the Bullish Society, and like, a lot of people tell me like, oh, you should sell, I had a course and I made some money from that when I first started the business, and I like filmed it in a proper studio and everything. But, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, you should do a course or whatever. And I really respect, like, Jen was like, I don't sell anything that anyone needs. Like, I'm not selling essentials, but I'm selling things people want. And I know if they buy something, they want it. And you can't feel bad about that, right? Christina says, design can be outsourced, but can I outsource design? This is the real question, because I know design can be outsourced, but I have two problems. One, the quality of design that I want, I'm not sure I can afford. And two, the quality I can afford, I would want to micromanage, and I would be the worst client. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Just print those Excel charts to PDF. My Excel chart, like, the problem is, like, if you don't have, like, the right fonts installed, they'll all break. Christina says, good self-awareness. Thanks. I have to say, most of this beautiful packaging was actually designed by Erin, this, like, Purrbon packaging, with my design input, and I did not get strangled, so... which I'm pretty happy with this as design packaging. I think it did an excellent job. Like, I asked for what I wanted, and I got it, and nobody got strangled, so... Yeah, to be clear, most of it was stock art, vector art that Erin modified. It's true. It was a thing that we then did some manipulating. Well, I don't overestimate my client horridness. Erin let me stand behind him and make arguments about like where different curves went and stuff like that. I don't know. I will say that, like, I'm very happy to hire out illustration because I know I'm a terrible illustrator, and I don't think I'm a very great designer, but I have a very specific design vision that I'm not the best at communicating. Part of it is just coming from nonprofits that we very rarely had a budget for design, and I hated asking people to volunteer to do design. And so, we had like a creative brief template I would send out when we finally did find designer volunteers and stuff. But I just hate asking people to give their well-earned skills away. So I would end up doing design stuff, and it wouldn't look like what I wanted, but at least I wasn't like forcing someone to design me an appeal and stuff like that. So no, Erin's not busy. Erin's just an unpaid employee. It's fine. I might give him a solo 401k under Oh My Dollar. Can save some more tax advantage dollars. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go eat nachos and watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Does anybody want to share what things they are looking forward to this week? What they are excited about? Or just what is happening this week? If you're not excited about anything, that's fair. I understand. What am I doing this week? I mean, I'm pretty excited to watch RuPaul's Drag Race and eat nachos. Oh, David gets next Monday off for President's Day. It is so funny that I forgot it was President's Day, because I don't know if I can effectively communicate how much of my job in December was taking all of the holidays for 2021 and canceling service for transit agencies. I probably had to cancel service on President's Day like 200 times in software in December, and yet somehow I didn't actually internalize the date. Oh, Clara's gonna finish current bullet journal and move into a new one. That's very exciting. Next Monday is for the end of next week's stream. That is true. Michigan College is free as of next semester, which I'm very excited about. I saw that they announced that like big thing for Michigan College. I am very proud of you. That is great. Latitude says President's Day is a fake holiday. It's a fake holiday. However, it is a holiday that a lot of rural transit agencies run Sunday or no service on. I put all my days off in the calendar at the beginning of 2021, but did you do it 200 times? I feel like I made no plans for 2021 for days off because I felt like almost all of my days off are just going to be used as mental health or to do work for Oh My Dollar. Last year, I used all of my days off, 100% of my days off until December 25th to do Oh My Dollar work. Shoots, everything, speaking gigs, so, you know, stuff for my other job. So it was great that I had paid time off. I haven't had that in a long time, but it wasn't very helpful. And then I took December 25th off, planning on doing Oh My Dollar work, and then I ended up very sick. So, yeah. We don't get, all of our PTO at my company is mixed in with your sick time. And your vacation, your holidays, and your sick time is all mixed together in one big pot. And I just end up very paranoid about using it. So my employer requires me to submit a percentage at the beginning of the year. It's not me being organized. Fair enough. Yeah, I get Boxing Day off. I don't care about the holiday. I care about the paid day off. I mean, I think that's fair. Do you have a Canadian do you work for a Canadian company or a UK company? Boxing Day is like such a weird holiday to get off in the US, I feel like. Oh, so you are grandfathered in. That's nice. My company does a very interesting thing, which only 2 people have actually, we're not super old. We're only an 18-person company. We're not super old, but so only 2 or 3 people have taken advantage of it. But at 4 years, you get a 1-month sabbatical at 40% pay, which you can then also combine with your PTO if you want. And I don't think you have to do like work-related stuff on your sabbatical, although about half of our company is consultants. And so there's like actual work that like professional work they might want to do on their sabbatical, like go study transit in a foreign country or something. So, it's a cool perk. I don't feel like 4 years is like, I don't feel like 40% pay for a month at 4 years is enough to really like say that it's leading to retention. Right? But I am pretty sure that they designed it in order to, I think they designed it because we don't have paternal leave in we're so small that we, like, pretty much none of the laws affect us except Oregon's mandated paid sick time now does. But I think they did it so that someone could have parental leave. I think that was like why it was implemented. Every 5 years, my company buys us lunch. We used to get bought lunch once a month. We would get bought lunch at the all-staff meeting. But then when COVID hit and that started to be virtual, they started donating the same amount of money that they would spend on buying us all lunch to a local nonprofit every month. And we got a vote on it, which I thought was very nice of them. So we are getting played off stage. I'm sorry. Apparently music is sneaking in, trying to charm us out. I think someone is very anxious for Nachos and RuPaul and is trying to get everyone out. So, all right. I would like everyone to have a lovely week. Stay safe. And stay safe. Pet a cat if you have one available. Stay hydrated. And I will see you all tomorrow or next week. Same time, same place. I know what I'm doing. I will probably be less fabulously dressed, but I appreciate you all just rolling with this outfit. All right, see y'all later. Bye.